Masechet Midot, page 36. We'll start at the Mishnah, page 35b. This short, beautiful chapter dealing with the outer altar. As the Rambam explained to us in Hilchot Beit HaBchira, chapter 2, it was divided to three different sections in its height. We studied also in the past a little bit both in Tractate Zvachim, page 62, as well as Tractate Menachot in 97. But here we are, המזבח היה 32 על 32. So here, as we learned in the past, the Rambam in the case of Mishnah expanded on that. It was different size, different structure between the era of the Aliyah, of the ascending from Babylon to Yerushalayim to build the second Beit HaMikdash, versus the way that it will be based on the book of Yechezkel, Ezekiel. The Rambam tells us that the altar was constructed by those who returned from Babylonian exile, like the altar that Yechezkel, Ezekiel described, that will rebuild, God willing, at the era of this third temple, covered the area of 32 by 32 cubits. So here's the Mishnah said that the altar, meaning the outer altar, was the height was a 10 cubits tall, and it was the way that it was shaped. I'm sure that some of you Gemarot, you see the squares that was one on the top of the other. עלה אמה וחנס אמה זה היסוד. So the square ascended 1 cubit high and intended a width of 1 cubit on all sides until the next square. That's basically the foundation, the base on the altar. The Rabbeinu Asher expanded on that, why you have to have it in this way. The key is that the measurement is from those corners, that each of them have this, which called the Yesod, the foundation 32 by 32, and the part that was a Sovev was 30 by 30 by 5, while the roof was 28 by 28 times 3. נמצאת 30 על 30. So the second square is, as we said, it's a 30 cubits by 30 cubits. עלה 5 וחנס אמה זה הסובב. So the square ascended 5 additional cubits and intended 1 cubit. That's basically the rounding ledge which went around the entire altar, unlike the base that we'll explain later. So the square built above this ledge, after they have this indentation of 1 cubit ascended by additional cubits. So therefore נמצא 28 על 28. So the final size, it's basically 28 cubits by 28 cubits. The truth is, based on Gemara in Menachot 97b, you see that it's an addition of two tfachim. It's 28 cubits plus 2 handbreadth by 28 and 2 handbreadth. Since the base of the Gemara Menachot is less than the full cubit, so the Mishnah not bothered to mention the exact. But the top of the altar, there were 4 small hollow squares, one in each corner. That's basically the offerings, the dam of the offerings that were placed on the corners of the altar. So they said Mekom HaKranot, the space occupied by each of the corners, Ama mizeh ve'ama mizeh, they have 1 cubit on this side along the length of the altar and 1 cubit on the other side. נמצא 26 על 26, so which means that the vacant area on the roof of the altar, apart from the corners and the area between them, that's basically 26 cubits by 26 cubits. מקום הילוך רגלי הכהנים, the place that the kohanim, the priest, will walk when they will move around the altar to perform their obligations. So they said, amah mizeh ve'amah mizeh. It's the 1 cubit on this side and on that side 1 cubit, both for length and for the width. נמצא 24 על 24 מקום מערכה. So the מערכה גדולה, the area of 24 cubits by 24 cubits remain on the top of the altar as the area of the arrangement of the wood of the altar. Now it's important, the next step, which is some type of comparison between the era of the second temple versus the era of the first one. Amar Rabbi Yosei, mitchila, initially at the era of the first temple, לא היה אלא 28 על 28. כונס ועולה למידה זו, עד שנמצא מקום המערכה 20 על 20. So the idea of the first Beit HaMikdash, the base of the altar, was not 32 by 32 cubits, was only 28 by 28 cubits. And it was intended 1 cubit for the second square, another for the third square, and it ascended by this measure 5 cubits for the surrounding ledge and 3 for the top of the altar. It also contained the width of 1 cubit for the corners and the width of 1 cubit on each side for the Kohanim passage, until one finds the result is that the area of the arrangement of wood on the altar was only 20 by 20 cubits. וכשעלו בני הגולה, so the time that the people from Babylon ascend to Yerushalayim and build the second Beit HaMikdash, the second temple, הוסיפו עליו 4 אמות מן הצפון ו4 אמות מן המערב כמין גמה. So the people who ascended from Babylon, they added 4 cubits to the north and 4 cubits to the west, to these squares. That's similar to the Greek letter gamma, which has the shape of a right angle. And as a result, the area of the arrangement of wood in the second temple was 24 by 24 cubits. Shene'emar, this is a quote from the book of Ezekiel, chapter 43. והאריאל 12 אורך ב-12 רוחב רבוע. So here is a description that was 12 long by 12 width, square, on its 4 sides. So the hearts is the area of the arrangement of wood on the altar. So the יכול שאינו אלא 12 על 12. You might think, based on this verse, that the arrangement was only 12 cubits by 12 cubits. כשהוא אומר, when the text said אל 4 רבעיו, on its 4 sides, מלמד, we derive from here, שמן האמצע הוא מודד 12 אמה לכל רוח, which means that you have 12 cubits in the way that you measure for to each side from the middle of the heart, which means that the entire area was 24 cubits by 24 cubits. Now, we learned several times the chut sikra, which is the red sikra, the red line that encircled the altar in the middle, which is at the midpoint of its height. So that was basically 1 cubit beneath the height of the surrounding ledge. בחוט של סקרה Rabbeinu Asher emphasized that it was the red one. Chogro be'emtza, it was the middle. The reason is lehavdil ben hadamim ha'elyonim ladamim hatachtonim, to separate between the dam of the offering that must be presented at the upper part of the altar versus the other one that need to be presented at the lower part of the altar. והיסוד היה מהלך על פני כל הצפון ועל פני כל המערב. The base of the altar was not encircle the altar on all four sides, but will extend along the entire northern side of the altar and along the entire western side. ואוכל בדרום אמה אחת ובמזרח אמה אחת. And the base will occupy only 1 cubit on the southern side and 1 cubit on the eastern side, but did not extend the rest of the length of these sides. So you should know that Rabbeinu Asher here expanded that those who at the time should see the whole and read the whole measurement of Rabbeinu Asher. So also you see in Tosfot, Zvachim 61, it also expanded that. So you see in all these very clear diagrams or pictures, either in the Shadstein, Koren, or other Marot, gives you those diagrams that give a very vivid explanation of this Mishnah. Lamedvav Amud Aleph, page 36, top of the page, Mishnah 2. The Mishnah continue with the Yesod, with the foundation of the outer altar. ובקרן מערבית דרומית היו שני נקבים. So here, as the Tosfot in Sukkah 48, as well as the Rambam, describe that it was 2 holes. In a way, it's like the Mishnah later said, it's like a human nostrils, that it's narrow and long one. So, ובקרן מערבית דרומית היו שני נקבים כמין שני חותמים דקים. So, on the southern corner of the base of that altar, on the top of the base, there were 2 holes. One the west, the other one the south. They look like 2 thin nostril-like pipes, one to the west and the other to the south. And for a moment, I would like to just read to you the Kesef Mishnah that Rabbeinu Shmaya cited, and you see it based on the Rambam, Ilchot Beit HaBchira, chapter 2. I'm reading from the Stein's Koren translation. There were 2 holes on the southern west corner of the altar, which had the appearance of thin nostril-like pipes. These were called shittim, which is in our language is like a drain pipes. The dam of offerings placed on the western base and on the southern base of the altar will descend through those holes and ultimately become mixed in the temple courtyard, and that temple courtyard drain and flow out with the water used to rinse the area in the Nahal Kidron, the valley. שהדמים הניתנים על יסוד מערבי ועל יסוד דרומי יורדים בהם ומתערבים באמה ויוצאים לנחל קדרון. Because the remainder of the dam of that chatat of the sin offerings that is placed after being sprinkled on the curtain, separating the sanctuary from the Kodesh Kodashim, from the Holy of Holies, on the western base of the altar, and likewise the dam of the other offering, which is placed and sprinkled on the southern base of the altar, will descend through those holes and then be mixed in the drain of the temple courtyard with the water that's used to rinse the area in the temple courtyard drain, and will flow to that Kidron valley outside of Yerushalayim. The mixture of the blood and water was sold to gardeners as fertilizer and the proceeds belong to the temple treasury. As I said, you see more on that on the Rambam, Hilchot Beit HaBchira, chapter 2. Now we're going to Mishnah Gimel. Mishnah Gimel. The Mishnah describes how the Kohanim, the priest, entered the hallowed area under the altar. למטה ורצפה באותו הכרם, below on the floor next to the corner, and that's the corner which is מערבי דרומית, western and south of יסוד המזבח, of the base of the altar. מקום היה שם אמה על אמה. So it was a hollow space, size of 1 cubit by 1 cubit, וטבלה של שיש וטבעת הייתה קבועה בה. So it was a marble tablet that covered that space, and a ring was fashioned to the outer side of the tablet to assist the raising it. שבו יורדים לשיט ומנקים אותו. So that the place that the space that the Kohanim will occasionally descended, that's the area under the base that is called the drain pipes, and they will descend there in order to just clean it, so that the blood that it congeal there over the period of time will not block the flow of blood to the water drain. Now, there is a few, the Tiferet Israel and a few others, the Rabbeinu the Tanur Rambam and Rosh, have different idea what does that mean, shitin or shit means, but v'cheves, now the ramp, the next part of the Mishnah, and I'm sure in your Gemaras you see different diagrams, v'cheves haya lidromo shel mizbeach, so the Torah tells us v'lo ta'aleh b'marot al mizbechi, so he has to go on the ramp. So therefore, there was a ramp positioned to the south of the altar, by which the Kohanim will ascend to the altar. So the ramp would ascend in the incline from the ground of the altar on its eastern side, and it was 32 cubits long by 16 cubits wide. וחבש היה לדרומו של מזבח 32 על רוחב 16, ורבובה הייתה לו במערבו, ששם היו נותנים פסולי חטאת העוף. So it was an empty hall. It's called רבובה. It was by 1 cubit, so that's the place that a person's arms can reach, and that was on the western side, near to the floor of the altar, where they will place the disqualified bird sin offering that were disqualified not by physical blemish, but due to the disqualification of the owners or for some other reason. That's called psulei chatat ha'ot, and the bird was left there overnight, at which point they could take it out to the place designated there for the sreifa. Now you should know that the Rambam in Pirush HaMishnayot expand on the way it was made, but just a little bit. The Rambam in Hilchot Beit HaBchira, chapter 2, he said that there was a hollow space on the floor of the courtyard near the southern west corner of the altar, 1 cubit by 1 cubit, covered by a marble tablet with a ring fastened to its outer side. The Kohanim will descend through the space to the drain pipe to clean it. And there was a ramp to the south of the altar, 32 by 16 cubits, as the Mishnah said. It occupied only 30 cubits of the ground to the side of the altar, as the cubit of the base and the cubit of the surrounding ledge were positioned beneath it. And you see more on the Hilchot Bet HaBchira, Rambam, and the Nosei Kelim. Mishnah Dalet. אחד אבני הכבש ואחד אבני המזבח. So on the Tamid 28, you see the Mefaresh and others say that there is no difference between the stones of the ramp and the stone of the altar, because both the ramp and the altar both built on stones. They cannot have bumps. So both the stones of the ramp and the stones of the altar, אחד אבני הכבש ואחד אבני המזבח, they brought them both מבקעת בית כרם. So in Yomי, chapter 6, the question if it's the same Bet Kerem that we know today, but anyway, they were taken from close to Yerushalayim, a place called Beit Kerem Valley. So the Rambam in Hilchot Bet HaBchira said that they brought overseas, they ship extremely large stones, and that's the place that they get there and fix it and make it according to the way it should be. וחופרים למטה מבתולה, and they to hold these stones, they will dig into the ground with wooden axes beneath the virgin soil. ומביאים משם אבנים שלמות שלא נף עליהם ברזל. So from there they bring a whole stones against which iron had not been raised. The reason is a clear pasuk. They said שהברזל פוסל בנגיעה ופגימה בכל דבר, because the iron disqualified stones from the altar even through contact. That's the לא תניף עליהם ברזל that Torah said in the Dvarim 27. נפגמה אחת מהם היא פסולה וכולן כשרות. So if any of the one of those stones of the altar or the ramp was damaged, even after the construction of the Beit HaMikdash, it alone is disqualified, and so we replace it with another one, another whole stone. But the rest of the stones, they are kosher, they remain fit. ומלבנים אותה פעמיים בשנה. So the whitewash, which is the color with the white line, the stones of the altar twice a year. אחד בפסח ואחד בחג, one festival of Pesach and one festival of Sukkot, that's called the Chag, before these two festivals. וההיכל פעם אחת בפסח, and they will whitewash the sanctuary, the temple building itself, once a year, which is the eve of Pesach. רבי אומר, רבי יהודה הנשיא says, כל ערב שבת מלמדים אותו במפה מפני הדמים. They do it on every ערב Shabbat and the eve of Shabbat, not in the same that they do with the line the eve of Pesach, but cleaning it with the materials, with the kerchief, because it was a blood that was used and sprinkled over the course of the previous week. לא היו סודין אותו בחפיס של ברזל, שמעיגה ויפסול. So they didn't do the siyud while they would whitewash the altar prior to Pesach and Sukkot. They'll not plaster the stones with iron, whitewash a trowel, lest the trowel touch the stones and thereby disqualify them. שהברזל נברא לקצר ימיו של אדם והמזבח נברא להאריך ימיו של אדם, אינו בדין שיניף המקצר על המעריך. So this is more ideological, even theological or philosophical idea. The whole idea of disqualifications here. They say that the reason that the iron disqualifies the stones of the altar is that among the uses for which iron was created is the fashioning of the swords and knives that they use to shorten a person's day. And the other way around, the altar, the whole idea of creation of the altar is in order to lengthen a person's day. So since by offering the altar, when one made mistakes and committed transgressions, the person achieves atonement and then attain long life. So it is not fitting that an item that shortened people's life should be raised against that which lengthened their days. And the Tiferet Israel and Rambam on Shmot 20 verse 22 expand on that. And you see in general the commentators, and you see a lot of rabbinic writing, midrashic writing over this idea, the purpose of the sword versus the purpose of the altar, which is one the opposite of the other. Mishnah Hey. Now the upcoming Mishnah speaks about certain setup of different items that use for both for the process of offering and then the details involved in the temple courtyard, v'tabaot. So the Rambam and you see it also in the way of the Rosh speaks about the ring. So it was a v'tabaot hayu l'tzfono shel mizbeach. There were 24 iron rings that fix in the floor of the courtyard. Which part? Litzfono shel mizbeach, which is the northern part of the altar, which is the, in a way, corresponding to the 24 priestly watches, which the Mishnah we're going to speak later on in the 5th chapter about 8 cubits from the distance from the altar. Each one of the ring has an opening. It's a different view how exactly between Rashi and the Rosh, how exactly made, but anyway, shisha sdarim shel arba'a. So it was arranged at 6 rows of 4 rings each. Veyesh omrim, and there are those who said arba shel shisha shisha shalehem shochatim ta kodashim. So there are those who hold that it was that there were 4 rows of rings, of 6 rings each, which means that there will be that part of Shchitat Kodashim. So, meaning they insert the part of the tzavar of the animals in those rings. So, therefore, the Rosh will not move by any means, and therefore the Kohen can receive the dam that will flow from the tzavar. Beit habitmachayim haya litzfono shel mizbeach. The center part of the offering was set place for all this process, cutting and washing, that was the northern of the altar. ועליו 8 עמודים ננסים ורביעים של ארז על גביהם. So it was 8 low pillars of stones, and the cedar wood squares were affixed upon them. ואונקליות של ברזל היו קבועים בהם, and iron hooks were affixed in the wooden squares. ושלושה סדרים היו לכל אחד ואחד, and 3 rows of these hooks on each and every one of the wooden squares, שבהם תולים ומפשיטים על שולחנות של שיש שבין העמודים. So that's the place that they will take and flay the hide into marble tablets that were positioned between the pillars, the small pillars. So because they are so small, the Rosh on Tamid, page 30, explain, so therefore they put the Rosh HaBehema on this marble shulchan shel shaish. So it's avoiding grira la'aretz, to move it on the ground. Mishnah Vav. So after we have a long description of the altar and the other around it, now they continue with the other part of the Azarah, Hakiyo. So the Torah tells us in the book of Shemot, chapter 30, that it was a basin. So that's the place the Kohanim would wash their hands and feet before performing the temple services. Hakiyo haya ben ha'ulam ve'lamizbeach. So that basin was located in the space between the entrance hall and the altar. Umashuch klape hadarom. So therefore it was located between the entrance hall and the altar, and was not positioned exactly between them, but it was removed somewhat toward the south. בין האולם ולמזבח 2.20 אמה. So between the entrance hall and the altar, there were 24 cubits. ו12 מעלות היו שם, and there were 12 stairs there, and I'm sure when you do the Gemaras and your diagrams, you see the stairs that divided into 3 unequal set of stairs. רומא על החצי אמה ושילחה אמה, אמה ורובד 3 ואמה ורובד 3. So they said each stair was half a cubit high, but they were of unequal depth. So the first set consisted of 4 stairs, and the depth of the first 3 was a cubit and a cubit. And the 4th stair was wider than the other 3, and was built with rows of stones containing 3 rows, each a cubit deep. And above this set of stairs there were another set. So its first stair was a cubit deep, the second was also a cubit deep, and the third was built with rows of stones containing 3 rows, each a cubit deep. So as you see, I'm just using my Gemara, but I'm sure those who have Gemaras will see those diagrams, the way it was divided, and you see the distance. והעליונה אמה ורובד 4. So the upper set consisted of 5 stairs, the first 4 of which were each of a cubit, and the 5th was built with rows of stones containing 4 rows, each a cubit deep. So as you see, the combined depth of all the stairs was 19 cubits, which extended along the length between the entrance hall and the altar. Now, with the addition of 3 cubits of vacant space between the stairs and the altar, this yields a sum total of 24 cubits. The Mishnah brings a view of Rabbi Yehuda that disagree. Rabbi Yehuda speaks about the upper one. He said, העליונה אמה ורובד 5. So here Rabbi Yehuda speak about the third set of stairs. So he said the first 4 stairs of the upper set were each of a cubit, and the 5th was like rows of bricks, 5 cubits wide, and therefore the depth of the stairs was 20 cubit, which means that only 2 cubits of level ground were left between them and the altar. That's the way the Rabbeinu Asher explained. In general, it's important to know that Tiferet Israel, Tosfot Yom Tov, Vilna Gaon have a different view if those stairs apply to the entire hall or only toward the entrance of the hall. The Gra hold that is only for the entrance. The sides, it wasn't those stairs. The Tiferet Israel, also Tosfot Yom Tov hold, that was the entire part of the wall from northern part to the southern part. The next Mishnah, which is actually for this parak, the last 2 Mishnayot, speaks about the structure of the hall. Now, the first one is the entrance to the entrance hall, and Be'ezrat Hashem, Shivane Bet HaMikdash V'Yimra B'Yameinu, I see in particular in the Quran edition, it's so gorgeous, it's so beautiful. If I'm not mistaken, my dear friend, Rabbi Ariel, is one of the people who involved with this project, which is really amazing. I have few colleagues and close friends like Rabbi Gershon Kitzis and Rabbi Ariel, who took over the position after my late father, and Sdei Yaakov and other great Rabbonim, put together these beautiful diagrams and skits, and beyond beautiful. As you see here, this is the entrance of the entrance hall, the description of the Rabbi Eben Israel, Rabbi Steinsaltz's Koren edition. Mishnah Zayin. פיתחו של אולם גובהו 40 אמה ורוחבו 20 אמה. So now you should know that it's different גרסאות. There's a שיטה מקובצת, מסורת הש"ס, there is another גרסה, but we're going here by the שיטה מקובצת. So they said the entrance to the entrance hall of the sanctuary was 40 cubits high and 20 cubits wide. And above it, on the outside wall of the entrance hall, וחמש מלתראות של מילה היו על גביו. So it was a 5 oak of cornices. The lowest one extended beyond the width of the entrance, a cubit on this side to the right, and a cubit on that side to the left. And therefore its length was 24 cubits. התחתונה עודפת על הפתח אמה מזה ואמה מזה. So the one that was above extended 2 cubits behind it, the cubit on this side and cubit on that side, which means that its length was 24 cubits. The third likewise extended an additional cubit in each direction, as did the fourth and the fifth part. And they said, תחתונה עודפת לפתח אמה מזה ואמה מזה, שלמעלה ממנה עודפת עליה אמה מזה ואמה מזה, נמצאת, so result, העליונה 30 אמה, so that the upper was 30 cubit long, ונדבך של אבנים היה בין כל אחד ואחד. So it was in between the stones, it was between every of the cornice. I hope I translated right, but I'm using here the Koren one. But they said that there was a row of stones divided between each and every cornice. So the Mefarshim, you see the Rabbeinu Asher brings what the text said in the book of Azarah, chapter 6, verse 4. Remember, he was among the Orlim, among the building of the second Beit HaMikdash, that used the text that said, Nidbachim di even glal klata v'nidbach di a chadat. which explain according to Rabbeinu Ovadia ben Maratenura that each one of these row has 5 handbreadth, and the Tiferet Israel said that it was for the purpose of beauty. The Ezrat Kohanim said that it was to hold the wood in order to avoid the wood shelo yitaken, that it will stay straight. Mishnah 8. Mishnah Chet. Now getting close to the sanctuary. There are 2 views between the Kesef Mishnah and the Rabbeinu Shmaya. What transpired inside the Ulam, inside the sanctuary, it was poles. Now I personally can put my little 2 cents humbly. Visiting the world, especially old countries in Europe, you go to the old day Czechoslovakia, you go the old day the buildings in Greeks and other countries, you see high-rise buildings. And in addition to a big wondering how those years, hundreds and hundreds and more years, when no one has a university degree in a sense of, what we know, the Technion or the Yale or other great universities of engineering, yet those bridges and those buildings stay for thousands, so many years, and it's in excellent conditions. Now, in that sense, obviously, it's uncomparable. Go thousands of years ago. You see the wisdom of our great Torah and sages. So, we're getting in our kind of imagination, which, please God, happens, this prophecy of Ezekiel that the 3rd Beit HaMikdash will be rebuilt soon. So it was poles, the ktalim. So there's a view of Rabbeinu Shmaya that it was part of the walls was those poles. Kesef Mishnah and the Rambam hold that it was some type of derech binyan. It's almost like saying decorations. So again, we need to understand with these high level of ceilings and those ancient buildings, how they stand. But anyway, uchlonasot shel, some said even, some said erez, היו קבועים מקוטלו של היכל לקוטלו של אולם כדי שלא יבעט. So here we talk about a thick poles that made out, either you go by the stone, which sounds more rational, but the other Mefarshim said it was made by cedar. Be as it may, let's go simply by stones, right? Ancient stones, the way you visit those places in Yerushalayim. So you see those thick poles of stones were fixed there and extended from the wall of the sanctuary to support the eastern wall of the entrance wall, so that it should not tilt and fall, as the walls of the entrance hall were higher than those of the sanctuary. ושרשרות של זהב היו קבועים בתקרות האולם. So it was again so amazing and so uplifting and hard to imagine how beautiful. If you go by the first Beit HaMikdash, how King Solomon and his tremendous wisdom put the golden trees, and based on Gemara and Yoma and Lamentet and other sources, so many miracles. You read in Mishnah and Pirkei Avos and other endless miracles in Beit HaMikdash. So how those trees that made out of gold be able to bring more fruits and produce more fruits in Beit HaMikdash. But anyway, one of the ideas, Gemara and Yoma 39b, said that the Kohanim sold those pieces of gold and make a living to that. Anyway, the questions, why it's not prohibited from the law of misuse, is or sameach, but according to Yerushalmi, it's the King Solomon building the first temple, and it produced gold. And the Beit HaMikdash HaSheni, the second temple, they put it, made appearance of gold. Some say that Herod did it. The Gemara in Holies 92 said that the nation of Israel, Mashul Geffen, it's like a Geffen, but anyway, שבהן פרחי כהונה עולים ורואים את העטרות. So those young Kohanim, they ascend to the ceiling and see the crowns that were placed in the window space of the sanctuary for adornment. And we derive that from a sentence in the book of Zechariah chapter 6 verse 14, שנאמר והעטרות תהיה לחלם ולטוביה ולידעיה ולחן בן צפניה לזיכרון בהיכל השם. So that's all those names of Olea Gola, people who came from Babylonian exile, and wants to mention them lezikaron be'echal Hashem. Some rabbis said that that's the derivative, that people who contributed for the sake of the Eichal Hashem, they should put a stone, you see it in many places, so they have their name, lezikaron be'echal Hashem. And then they said, וגפן של זהב הייתה עומדת על פתחו של היכל. And it was a beautiful golden ornament in the front of a vine stood at the entrance to the sanctuary. As we said earlier, that the geffen, the vine, represented the Jewish people who are compared to vine. ומודלה על גבי חלונסות. So they are basically, the vine was hung upon poles. כל מי שהוא מתנדב, עלה או גרגיר או אשכול, מביא ותולה בה. So beautiful. Whoever will donate an ornamental golden leaf or grape or cluster of grape to the temple will bring it to the temple, and a Kohen will hang the item upon the vine. So when the gold was required, the temple treasury and those treasurers will remove these items from the vine as necessary. So that's the way the Mefarshim said, as that's the level, the heights of a person. אמר רבי אליעזר ברבי צדוק, מעשה היה ונמנו עליה 300 כהנים לפנותה. So Rabbi Elazar בר צדוק said that it was one time an incident that 300 Kohanim were enlisted to move the vine because it was such an immense weight. Now, we said it many times that the language of 300 in Talmud is just an expression. Not everyone said it was really 300. Rabbeinu Shmaya, yes, said that it was very heavy to take it. Others say that it was just an expression to describe the amount. The big question is, why? The Gemara in Tamid 29 said that it's just expression, language of exaggeration, but you see the Rabbeinu Vadim Bartanua and the Rambam said that they need to remove the entire cluster, not the entire vine, from one location to another. It's not clear why. Ezrat Kohanim said that maybe to fix it or thing in that nature. Hadran alach hamizbeach. Shechianu Baruch Hashem, we're about to start Perek Revi'i, the fourth Perek, Pitcho Shel Echal, the entrance of the sanctuary. This chapter dealing with the entrance of the sanctuary, with all the chambers and the buildings around. Pitcho Shel Echal, the entrance to the sanctuary. So the entrance was in the eastern side of the sanctuary. that, as you see in all the different diagrams, that the people go from the hallway to the sanctuary. So the heights was Kovo 20 amah v'rochbo 10. So the height was 20 cubits high and 10 cubits wide. וארבע דלתות היו לו. And they have four doors. So you see a different views what exactly happened here, but first let's go by the Tanakama, the first view. שתיים בפנים ושתיים בחוץ. So it was two doors placed inside, which means on the side of the entrance that was connected to the sanctuary, and two on the side of the entrance that they connected to the entrance hall. שנאמר, Ezekiel was a Kohen, and he wrote on chapter 41, quote, ושתיים דלתות להיכל ולקודש. They said that the two pair of doors for both, for the sacred area, for the sanctuary, and to the sacred area. So you have two doors to the sanctuary and two to the sacred area, that's the entrance hall. Each door was 5 cubits wide, so that when closed, they will fill the space of the entrance. החיצונות נפתחות לתוך ההיכל לכסות עוביו של כותל, והפנימיות נפתחות לתוך הבית לכסות אחר הדלתות. So here, the outer door that located near the entrance hall will open into the space of the entrance to the sanctuary, and their function was to cover the entire thickness of the wall of the sanctuary entrance. And the inner doors will open into the temple sanctuary, and their function was to cover the 5 cubits of the sanctuary wall that were beyond the doors where when they were open. So why you need those doors to cover part of the wall? So they said, לכסות אחר הדלתות, שכל הבית תוח בזהב חוץ מאחר הדלתות. Because the entire temple was coated with gold except for the wall that was beyond the doors. So as a result, it was very appropriate for that part of the wall to be covered by the doors. Rabbi Yehuda had a different shita, a different view. בתוך הפתח היומדות וכמין הצטר מיטה היו. He says that the inner door will not open into the sanctuary, but Rabbi Yehuda hold that they too will stand inside the entrance where they were open, and in order for all 4 doors could open without interfering with one another, they were like hinged door, which means each door comprised of 2 plates attached by hinges, and as a result, when they open, they will fold back. ונקפלות לאחוריהם אלו שני אמות ומחצה ואלו שני אמות ומחצה. Consequently, the width of these outer doors after they folded were 2.5 cubits. In the same way, the width of those inner doors was 2.5 cubits after they were folded. חצי אמה מזוזה מכאן וחצי אמה מזוזה מכאן. So together with half a cubit of a doorpost from here for the outer doors and half a cubit of a doorpost from there for the inner doors. So you see here the folded doors cover all 6 cubits of the space of the opening, from where it's derived that each door, these doors contain 2 folding plates. שנאמר, this is a verse in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 41, 2 דלתות ו2 דלתות לדלתות, 2 מוסבות דלתות, 2 לדלת אחת, ו2 לדלת אחרת. So Rabbeinu Asher explained, first let's translate the text. And the two doors here had 2 leaves a piece, 2 turning leaves, 2 leaves for the one door and 2 leaves for the other. So it means, according to Rabbeinu Asher, that each door had 2 sections which turned and folded on one another. Mishnah Bet, ושני פשפשים היו לו לשער הגדול. So it was 2 פתחים קטנים. It was a large gate of the sanctuary. Had 2 wickets, one to the north, אחד בצפון ואחד בדרום, one to the north and one to the south, שבדרום לא נכנס בו אדם מעולם. The one at the south part, no person ever entered to that gate. ועליו הוא מפורש לידי חזקאל, that's clearly the prophet Ezekiel said, שנאמר in 44 in Ezekiel, ויאמר אלי השם השער הזה סגור יהיה לו, ייפתח ואיש לא יבוא בו, כי השם אלוקי ישראל בא בו והיה סגור. So to paraphrase the text is the place that the Almighty, in our anthropomorphic understanding, in our words, enter from that door. So the northern wicket was used for entry to the sanctuary in order to open its doors. The Kohanim who would enter each morning to open these doors will take the key to the sanctuary doors and open the northern wicket with a different key. נטל את המפתח, הוא פתח את הפשפש ונכנס לאתה, ומאתה לאחד. So you take the key to the sanctuary door, the Kohen will open the northern wicket with a different key, and then you take the compartment connected to it, and he will enter the sanctuary from the compartment and open its door from the inside. Rabbi Yehuda disagreed with that, and he said the process were different. The Kohanim will not enter, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the sanctuary in order to open the doors. He said that the pishpash, the wicked, had a door that will open into the thickness of the wall, separating between the entrance hall and the sanctuary. The Kohen will go there and will walk inside the thickness of the wall until he found to be standing in between the 2 gates. רבי יהודה אומר, בתוך עוביו של כותל היה מהלך, עד שנמצא עומד בין שני השערים, and then הוא פתח את החיצונות מבפנים ואת הפנימיות מבחוץ. And he then opened the outer door from the inside, and the Kohen will open the inner doors from the outside. So Azarah Kohanim in the Meiri expand on what exactly the difference and how these doors are open, and hopefully the next daf will expand on that.